I'm Jordan Montgomery, a performance coach and owner of Montgomery Companies, a full-scale coaching and consulting firm located out of the Midwest, but working with people all across the country. And this week, I have the privilege and the honor to be a part of the Jesse T Show.
Jordan, brother, welcome to the Jesse T Show.
Jesse, thanks for having me, man.
Man, you came on, very welcome, and it's a pleasure. And you came on before we started hitting record, and you just had this energy and this light and this kind of this gravity about you. And I'm excited to hear more about what you do. And we were introduced through a common connection, Todd, who's one of Dave Meltzer's right hands. And without Todd, this conversation doesn't exist. So I want to say thank you, Todd, and talk a little bit about your journey, who you are, what you do, and how you show up in the world, brother.
Jesse, right back at you, man. Appreciate your energy. Love the work that you're doing. And I'm honored to hang with you for a little bit today.
Likewise.
I live in the middle of nowhere, God's country, southeast Iowa. So we live in Tiffin, Iowa to be exact, but work with folks across the country. I run a full-scale coaching and consulting firm, Montgomery Companies. My wife is in the business with me. So the joke is I run my mouth. She runs the business. It works out pretty well. We've got a team of coaches and consultants that works with executive leaders, salespeople, entrepreneurs, and athletes. And it's been a lot of fun, man. I had a background in financial services, pivoted into being full-scale entrepreneurs, 4 years ago, and have never looked back. So because of God's grace and a lot of good people around us, we've created opportunity and we're having a lot of fun. So that's me in a nutshell. Married, we have 3 little girls, and life is good.
It's great to hear, brother. And I got to ask, behind your head, it looks like Jordan jumping from the free throw line. Is that what's behind you?
It is, man. Very observant of you. Yes.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
GOAT. Is he not? He's the GOAT, right?
No question. The other GOAT is now Tom Brady officially, but he's the GOAT for basketball.
There you go. There you go.
For sure. But I'm a huge Jordan fan, and obviously, you have the name, the first name. But growing up, were you a sports fan? It looks like basketball and different sports.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think sports has always been a part of my background. I grew up around basketball and football predominantly. And, when you live in the state of Iowa, there's nothing else to do. So
wrestle.
You have to follow sports. There's wrestling too, right? I'm absolutely in wrestling country. University of Iowa has 24 national titles for those that don't know that. Most don't if you live outside the state of Iowa. But yeah, man, I think the competitive fire that comes from sports has always been attractive to me. I love the life lessons that sports teaches. So much of what I've learned has been from mentors and coaches that have worked with me either on the field or on the court. And today we get to work with a lot of athletes in that same way. So yeah, man, love sports for sure.
Talk a little bit about your trajectory from, when you first kind of got on your entrepreneurial path, and what were some of those pit stops along the way that brought you to today?
I think a lot of it has to do with mentorship, and the people in my life that created a vision through their example. And I was very fortunate to have some high-level leaders that are in the space that I'm in now that opened doors. One of those people is a guy by the name of Ben Newman. And a conversation with Ben, I'm on my back porch, Jesse, it's 3:00 on a Friday afternoon, about 4 years ago. And I just shared that I felt like God had put something on my heart to do more speaking and more coaching and a different type of coaching that I had been doing. And Ben had built this business that to me was very impressive. And he said, man, I think if you do this over the next 90 days, you'll build a business. And it was really simple advice. Like there was nothing fancy. It was just like, hey, make a certain amount of phone calls, reach out to some people, send some emails. But I did that. And again, because of good people and God's grace, we had a business after 90 days. And
wow.
I think in that there was certainly a lot of nerves, and there was a lot of times where I didn't look cool. Like I had come from a world where I was kind of the cool guy that had it figured out, right? Like I had eaten the proverbial shit sandwich and swallowed it whole. But when you step out and do something new, it means you got to eat the shit sandwich all over again. And so here I was, going to make this pivot. And I battled my ego to make that pivot, right? It was something new. And I remember I had a friend in the early stages of starting our business. He said, hey, I want you to know that the title of your company is Montgomery Companies. but it's just you. And then he said, right? Like he was asking a question, but he was sort of antagonizing me, kind of in a fun way, but he's also being serious. Like,
Yeah.
dude, what are you doing? Like, you got this Montgomery company is like plural. It's just you. And I remember telling my friend, I said, man, I built this for the future. I didn't build it for today. I've got a big vision for what we want to create. And then we just got to work on that vision, Jesse. So it hasn't been without some pain and some setback, but we have been so fortunate. And I feel like I get to do the work every day that I was created to do. And I'm so thankful for that opportunity.
So when you exited, I guess, your career and started on day one with Montgomery Companies, the intent was to be where you're at now in terms of being of service, coaching, mentoring, leading, inspiring others. What was that first 90 days like in terms of developing an offering and attracting clients and just kind of the bare bones? Because a lot of people listen to the show, they may be in transition as well. And they may be in transition from going from the 9-to-5 to independent entrepreneur. So I think there's some nuggets of wisdom that you might be able to share based on your experience.
Well, I think it's the adage of, we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and we underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. But if you break that down, right, the same could be said about a month and 3 months, right? Or 3 months and 6 months. Like, I think initially I overestimated what I could do in the first 30 days, and I underestimated what I could do in 90 days. And I had to learn patience. I'm not a very patient person. And I struggled with the pace of how things were happening, even though they happened very quickly. In my mind, they weren't happening quickly enough. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of creatives, they get tired too soon. I had a conversation with a friend. Her name is Sarah Henning. And I said, Sarah, I got to make a decision. I'm trying to pivot, but like I'm doing two things at once and I'm having this identity crisis and I don't know what to do. And she said, there's nothing to do. And she set me free. And she just said, why don't you chill out and just, stay in your lane, do this thing over here while you're still running this separate business. And it's all good, right? Now, I was fortunate I could do that. Not everybody can do two things at once, right? Like you might have some professional responsibilities that don't allow you to build something on the side. But it was a lesson to me in patience and discernment. I think so many times we want something to be a certain way, Jesse, and we're impatient and we cannibalize our opportunity or we jump out too quickly because it's not happening at the pace we want it to happen. And good things take time. And I had to learn that. And I'm glad that I had some people around me that reminded me of that. So, the other thing I'd say is I asked a lot of questions. I got a lot of feedback. I guess if I look back at my journey, I'm proud that I wasn't too proud. I battled ego for sure, but I wasn't too proud to ask for help. My coach and a good friend of mine today is David Meltzer, who we both know. And David says every day you got to ask for help, regardless of how successful you become, how much you've achieved. We never grow out of that, and especially when you're in the beginning stages of building something, you have to ask for a lot of help.
Yep.
And humble yourself to say, hey, I need feedback. I don't know what I don't know. I have blind spots and I'm actually kind of clueless. So I want to break records on, asking for help. Like, how can I be the guy that asks more questions and remains more curious than everybody else around me? And I think because I've done that, I think it's allowed us to create some unique opportunity. And again, that's something I picked up from mentors, over the years.
Yeah, man, that ability to humble yourself down, ask for help where you need it, or even just being inquisitive and learning about things that you may be interested in, just the value and color that gives your life's journey, more so than just a means to an end for a goal. But the way that I was taught this many years ago, because I've been very, very grateful to have amazing people come into my life through the years that were teachers in one way or another, mentors, whether they were official mentors or just friends that gave me advice, whatever it was. And as soon as you stop learning and that thirst for knowledge goes away, you become frozen in time, and you get capped out, and you kind of get stuck. And then that's when people start passing you up, whether it's peers, competition, industry, relationships. If you don't keep evolving as a dad, as a husband, they're going to start questioning. They're going to be like, all right, where'd dad go? What's going on with dad? What's going on with my husband? What's happening? So I think we owe it to ourselves, but then we have to deploy what we learn to those that are around us and keep that thirst for knowledge going. And the way I illustrate this too is the rule of thirds. Have you heard of this before?
Not sure that I have. Give it to me.
So there's three people in your life when you're doing life. There's people that are just above you, right where you are, and just below you. And below you, not in the negative sense, but they're just coming up and learning. And so you want to surround yourself, like they say that you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself. Well, this deploys into that rule of thirds, where the mentors that are ahead of you, you want to sync up with those people that can pass the knowledge to you that you align with, whether it's faith, health and wellness, business. You're attracted to them for some reason. They'll give you the information. And then the band of people that you're in terms of current walk in life, well, you could trade war stories. You can compare notes. You can kind of go through the struggle or the wins together. And then the people below you, so to speak, again, not below you in life, but just they're learning, is the people that you pass the transfer of knowledge to. And then now that completes that circle of learning. And then they can grow and they can come up, and then they, in return, can teach the world what they've learned. And so it sounds like you're doing that innately. Was this something that was just born out of curiosity for your learning? Was this something you always had through your life? And then talk about some of your mentors that impacted you the most.
Well, first off, I appreciate that relational model for growth. And everybody needs to rewind the episode and listen to that again, because there's a lot of gold in what you just said, Jesse. I think it starts with this idea of being coachable, right? And there's a difference between being coachable and teachable. Most people are teachable. And that is, they'll listen to an episode like this, or they'll go to an event, or they'll hear somebody speak, and they're willing to take notes, and they're even willing to apply what they've learned. But they oftentimes miss the greatest opportunity, which is to circle back with the person who taught them and ask for more time. And it's about chasing relationships, not chasing moments or conversations.
Love it.
And so, for me, I just became obsessed with chasing relationships. And what I found is the easiest way to ask for a mentor is to say thank you, right? So like if I learned from you, Jesse, if I heard you speak at an event, or maybe you share some wisdom on a podcast, and I want to build a relationship with you, I'm going to come to you and be very specific with my gratitude. And I'll say, hey, Jesse, I heard you on this podcast. You shared these 3 things that have been incredibly impactful in my life. I've been applying the 3 things that you taught me, and here's the difference that it made. And I just wanted to reach out to you to say thank you. I would love it if you'd be so kind to spend 15 minutes of your very valuable time with me. And I want to set you free and just say, if you don't have that time, I totally understand. If you're willing to give me the time, I will come prepared and I will pay it forward. I would absolutely love 15 minutes with you, right? And I think we'd be amazed how many people will give you time. If you're specific with your gratitude, if they know that you've taken their content seriously, they'll give you more time, right? You can actually grow a relationship. But too many times we miss the greatest opportunity when we learn from a mentor or a potential mentor to circle back with the person and say, I want to grow a relationship. I want to continue learning. And the reason that works is because that person says, hey, this individual gets it. If I deposit some of what I know into them, they're going to do something with it. They'll be a part of my legacy. And that's essentially what we're saying to those people, right? Is like, I want to be a part of your legacy. Jesse, let me be a part of your legacy. I would love to take what you know and transfer that to other people. And I think that's highly attractive to thought leaders, to mentors. And the worst thing we could do is ask a mentor, would you be my mentor? Right? Because they don't know what the hell that means, right? They're like, oh my gosh, is this an hour a week? Is it an hour a month? Is this person going to call me all the time? What am I signing up for? So I don't think we should ever ask somebody to be a mentor. I think we should just ask them to spend time and display that we're coachable through our action. So it's a little bit of what I've learned, and I'm still learning, man. Like I'm still chasing and pursuing people. And I'm not too proud to admit that. Like I hunt people down, man. If I hear a really good podcast episode with a CEO or, some famous influencer, like I'll just reach out and say, hey, here's what you taught me. Here's what I learned. Here's how it's affected my life in a positive way. I'd love it if we could grab 15 minutes. And if I could earn some of your very valuable time, I'll come prepared and I'll pay it forward. So for somebody listening that wants to have more mentors or grow in a relationship with a specific mentor, it's a recipe that they can follow that I think can be very impactful.
Unbelievable, brother. And it's so much value there, just and how to approach that conversation, because there's so many people that want to be mentored and want to be led and have a thirst for success and desire for growth. And a lot of times they may not go about it the right way because they just don't know how to. And I know people that have walked up to someone and say, hey, be my mentor, but they don't know what they're signing up for. And I think if you do a little bit of homework, you come at it with humility and grace, and you can even add value, right? And reciprocity. And how can I add value in your world? And sometimes just being a mentee to someone who wants to pass on information is enough. Maybe it's, like in my podcast, I've had amazing people come on the podcast, and immediately when I get done with them, I'm like, well, how can I add value to you? You've already given me value. Who can I connect you with? Who can I plug you into? Who is it that you're looking to connect with for whatever reason? And then that kind of rule of reciprocity comes in, and it's like, well, you've helped me and now I want to help you. And that's kind of a good way to do life. It's a beautiful handshake. So I love how you illustrated that, man. I do want to ask, because this is something that I've encountered multiple times in my life, from my my 2 years of a legal business in Boston to my 4 legal businesses later on in life. I've both bootstrapped companies, and I've also started out with strength in terms of relationships and systems, processes, and cash on hand. And so when you did this leap of faith, so to speak, but also a calling and a knowing in your heart that this was going to be what you did with the Montgomery companies, were you prepared practically wise, mindset wise, to just jump right in and burn the boats? Or was it something where you were bootstrapping and you were kind of, didn't know how the future was going to handle for you?
Well, I was fortunate in a sense, Jesse, that I had built a separate business that I slowly took an exit from. So, I'll be candid about that. Financially, we could buy time because there was a business that we were still running, right?
Beautiful.
So I was fortunate in that way. That said, I was moving into the world of the unknown and coming from a very stable position. And I think so many times moving forward means letting go, and it's like, hey, you got to take a step back to take 3 forward. So, I definitely gave up certainty and stability. And I mean, we had a 7-figure revenue business that we dropped, that we exited, and I was 30 years old at the time, so to let go of that was scary, man. Like I just wrestled for sure with anxiety and fear that, is this the right thing? And certainly had a lot of people around me that questioned that decision. And I felt that feedback from people that I trusted, not just people that I kind of knew. Like, these were people that I knew really well, that knew me very well, that said like, hey, are you sure this is the right thing? And it's not that I didn't listen to those people, but I guess I was willing to bet on myself. And I just knew that to create the life and the business that I wanted to create, I was going to have to shed some things. And it's scary to do that, but man, I think it's like, sometimes we got to say, no to good things so we can say yes to great things. And here we are a few years later, and we just feel really blessed, so life is good.
So what was that business that you were running prior that was a 7-figure business?
Yeah, so it's a financial planning business. So, I was working with clients. I had a leadership position inside of that firm, something that I knew very well. It was all relationship based. I wasn't the most brilliant financial planner, but I really enjoyed people. And so I started that business at 22 years old and grew up very organically, personal observation, prospecting, right? Like, very grassroots. But I loved it. And I'm still very close with that company today. In fact, many of the advisors that are at that company are some of our best clients. So it was an amicable exit, a very positive exit. And it's an organization that we're still very close with.
Talk about that first part of that career when you were 22. What was it that you were selling and marketing in the financial services world? Because it's such a broad world. It can mean life insurance. It can mean annuities. It can mean, full-blown wealth management. What was it that you started doing when you were 22 in that world?
Yeah, so for me, it was all about the basics and the fundamentals, right? Like, nothing sexy. It was insurance, risk management, planning. I started to kind of think about and work on investments in year 2. But man, the first year, it was like really basic, and I was okay with that. I enjoyed that. I liked that. There were times where, I felt like, man, this is kind of mundane. But at the end of the day, it was honorable work that people needed, right? And it was the work that I had to do to get to where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I think success is about applying the basics and the fundamentals, the great ones never get bored with the basics or take the fundamentals for granted, And so I don't care what you do. Like there's still stuff that I do today that's incredibly basic, and I do it every day, And so I think there's some people that think, well, once you build something special, you work on all this really innovative and creative and special stuff, and you must be really an expert in your craft. And that's just not the case. I think most people that are successful, and I know this is the case for you, it's like you're applying the basics and the fundamentals every day, and so like, what does that mean? It means you're making some phone calls, you get introduced to some new people. You're still, my guess is addressing the basics in a financial plan, right? Like I'm not going to skip over that stuff just because it's not sexy. I'm willing to do the basic work. And so, and it's funny, Jesse, like I get to work with some really brilliant and creative people today, and we get to work with some professional athletes and some executive leaders at major firms. And I'm always amazed at how seriously those people take the basics. Like they're just doing the same things that everybody else is doing, but they're doing them more consistently, and they're doing them more intentionally. And that's what separated them from everybody else.
From good to great, right? It's doing those showing up on time, being prepared, having a great attitude. Some of those things that aren't even, business kind of related in terms of thinking about the sales process and following up and prospecting. It's just those fundamentals are what separate good from great. And it sounds like you knew that pretty early on. And to go from 22 years old with the basics and growing through an 8-year career till you were 30 to be able to kind of get to where you were, it shows that stick-activity, which is really where success comes from. The overnight success, they say, takes about 20 years, right? It's not overnight. It's not, unless you hit a lottery ticket. And a lot of times those people that are really famous overnight or wealthy overnight, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to handle it.
Good. It's good, man.
Yeah. It sounds like you took that 8-year trajectory, really did it right. And, with my narrative, I did the same thing. I was in banking for some years. I was a State Farm agent for some years. And then I went independent to do my own financial planning. And now like what I'm doing now, but that was a 10-year process. That wasn't a overnight deal. And so I think part of the message, I think that's really unique to the strength of character and unique to the great ones, so to speak, is just not giving up and not quitting.
Well, I think it's also understanding that there's pain in being less than excellent. And that pain is purposeful.
It's a teacher. It's one of the best teachers.
It's a teacher, man. Absolutely. And there's ridicule, right? And I just think that's a real part of success and growth. And Robin Sharma owns the rights to one of my favorite quotes. He said, every visionary was once ridiculed before they were revered.
Yep.
I love that. And he says, anyone that moved the needle in our society was initially laughed at. You just go through the list of like Martin Luther King, Susan B. Anthony, Steve Jobs, right? Like Henry Ford. I mean, all of these people that did really significant work at one point in their life, people thought they were crazy. And it's probably like your journey, right? Like, I know you faced some of that, Jesse. And I know that because you're successful and you've stepped out, right? And you're doing something different, which means at some point in your journey, you had some people that doubted you and thought you were crazy. And such a weird dichotomy, right? Between success and where we started.
Well, think about, you're a man of faith and you've mentioned it, and I can hear in the words you choose to speak, and think about Jesus, right? The most ridiculed of all time and the most understood after he was ridiculed, like accepted as, as God. And it's incredible that people have that ability and that perseverance in the moment, whether they don't really, there's a lot of times as an entrepreneur, and you could probably speak to this a ton, there's dark moments. There's moments where even if you're in a people business, like we were in the financial space, and now as a mentor and a leader and a coach in what you do, you're around people, but there's quiet times. There's times when you're by yourself, and there's that imposter syndrome can set in. Even if you're, crushing it and doing well, sometimes you're like, who am I to tell these people how to do X, Y, Z? Right. And so have you had to deal with that a little bit in your career at all? And what were some of those things that you learned, and how did you overcome that? Or how are you still working with that?
So yes, I dealt with it, and I still deal with it today. We have 75,000 thoughts a day. 80% of them are negative. I have so many negative thoughts, Jesse, in my brain that go around every single day. And I got to really work at that. What comes into your mind comes out in your life. And Craig Rochelle famously said, your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thought. I think that's true. And it's something we got to stay active at, man. If I'm not taking up my cross every day and giving my mind to right stuff, then I can't possibly go to the next level. I can't possibly serve people the way that I need to serve them. So yes, I dealt with it back then and I still deal with it today. I think in the early stages, what makes the difference is what you do on the days where you want to quit. Because everybody has those days, right? Like that's not unique to just people that don't make it. Like the people that make it have days where they're like, I'm out, right? Like I'm done. And I literally had that day like once a week for the first year in a financial services business. Like once a week, I was going to retire. I was going to quit. I was going to go tell my managing director I was out. And I just, for whatever reason, maybe I was just naive. I don't know. I'm like, nah, man, I don't know if I can do it, you know? And so I guess I just challenge somebody that's listening. If you're about to give up or you're in a situation where you're thinking about cashing in the chips, just be reminded, like the people that made it and the people that didn't made a different decision on that day. And that day for you might be reoccurring, right? It might be once a week, it might be once a month, but there is a day and it will be a defining moment in your journey. And the people that make it and the people that don't have a different answer on that day. So, that was, just important for me. I think those moments, Jesse, but also back to mentors.
Yep.
I'm thankful that, and I probably don't even realize it now, like how many small moments allowed me to keep going. Like I owe probably hundreds of people for what they said to me in a small moment or a text message that they sent me or, a stupid, silly little email that they sent. And it was just enough for me to say, this is worth it. Keep going, right? Keep pursuing this. So, man, I'm fortunate to have a lot of people around me that were a part of keeping that fire burning. And without them, there's no way I would have continued on.
They say it takes a village to raise kids. It takes a village to build a dream and to build a business, and sharing that dream and that message with as many people as possible to really do a couple things, to talk about your vision, to speak it into reality, but then also put your back against the wall. And if you say you're going to do something, kind of go do it. And that's where the mentors, before you brought it up, I'm like, all I kept on feeling was the importance of mentors. And then you hit it. I was like, he's good. It's like, so mentors, I could tell you really quick, just an illustration of how it saved my professional career at one point was, I was starting this outside sales company, door to door, business to business, cold call, nothing sexy, similar to like Groupon, but Groupon on feet. And we would work with sports teams, restaurants, hotels, golf courses. And it was a very much face-to-face business. I would walk into your business. I'd say, hey, Jordan, my name is Jesse. I'm stopping by on behalf of the Charlotte Bobcats, and then go into my pitch. And at one point during my younger years, I got into some sort of fight that left me with a black eye. And I'm in the field and I'm just like, miserable and not feeling it. And I'm walking door to door and I don't have the energy, the enthusiasm. The black guy's obviously turning attention in the wrong way. And I'm like, crap. And I started getting so down on myself. It was called curb ass back in the day, where literally, because we were walking all day, you would go find a curb and sit down and like be like, woe is me. And I remember picking up my phone at the time, and this is probably like 2006. So it was like just like a regular, like standard little phone. It wasn't like a sexy phone. And I just remember calling one of my mentors, Derek Colantonio, who is this higher up that had been done this business for like 20 years. And I was like, I'm ready to quit. I'm ready to throw in the towel. And he just shared some of his journey and some of his wisdom. And it honestly gave me a kick in the ass. And it recentered my focus, because I was also at the precipice of being promoted to a franchisee. And so I just was so close to giving up just before the door was open. And it was just that little extra love that someone put into my life that turned that into like a really amazing career for many years, where I met my wife and we had kids and the business was really successful. Just imagine if I just decided to turn around and quit. It's incredible.
Man, I'm so glad you brought that up, because we forget how powerful those small moments are for other people. And what might be just another routine conversation for you where you're encouraging someone can literally be a life-changing, life-defining moment for someone else. And it should spur us forward, right? That should empower us to do more of that for other people, because like your buddy didn't know that. He didn't know that small little moment was a defining moment for you that completely changed your career and changed your life, right? So I'm glad that you shined a spotlight on that moment. And we need to do a better job too I need to do a better job, Jesse, of like circling back with all the people that provided those moments and saying, thank you for being a part of my journey. And you have no idea that small moment changed my life.
That's beautiful. I'm going to steal that from you. I'm going to reach out to these people that like Derek Colantonio. If he's hearing this, thank you, DC. Amazing.
Yeah, man, that's real.
That's huge. That's powerful.
Yeah.
I'm stealing it. So now when you're operating in your business today and you're stepping into organizations and in front of professional athletes, these high performance, quote unquote, high powered personalities, what are some of the common themes you're seeing? Because what I think I can attribute it to, and just correct me if I'm wrong, is like once you get to that level, let's say like a Tiger Woods or a Michael Jordan or some like a Mike Tyson, where they're at the pinnacle of greatness, it's really just kind of fine tuning a couple little things. It's not really they got the fundamentals down pat. Usually, sometimes they might need to brush up, but usually not at that level. What are some things that you're finding with these high level performers that's kind of a common theme that you're able to educate, coach, and help them get to the next level?
Yeah, I'd say the word that stands out is focus. They're really acutely aware of what they're saying yes and no to. And to me, what makes a top performer really impressive, it's not all the things that they do, it's all the things that they don't do, right? It's all the stuff that they stay away from. So it's hard to say no, right? Like for all of us, it's hard to say no. We don't want to disappoint people. If you have success, if you're in a position of authority, you have a lot of things coming at you naturally. But the ability to say no is necessary for you to get to the next level. And as we mature, we don't mature with our yes, we actually mature with our no.
Agreed.
So one of the things that I find impressive about a lot of the top leaders and athletes that we spend time with is their acute awareness on what they need to be saying yes to and what they should be saying no to. And it's really all the things that they say no to that have allowed them to experience a really high level of success. And that shows up in what they eat, the people they spend time with, the environments that they're in or they're not in, the conversations they have or don't have. It's all that stuff, right? It's what they do to their body, what they don't do to their body. I mean, it's in all those little things that people don't realize are a part of performance. So, that's the first thing. I just think focus is undervalued. We throw that word around all the time. Oh, just be more focused. And what does that actually mean? And I think it means going small. It means giving stuff up. And it's not juggling 9 things at once. It's actually doing 1 or 2 things really well. So that for me would be the answer. Acute awareness to yes and no.
It's interesting. Success leaves clues. And I know it's cliche, but when you see people, executives, entrepreneurs, high level athletes, and all these different types of people, they have some things in common. And a lot of it's a thirst for growth and knowledge, whether it's in their discipline or in life. So you see a lot of the cliche, the top 100 CEOs read 500 books a year, whatever, 52 books a year, whatever the number is, but they're always learning and they're always growing and they're hopefully remaining humble to know they don't know everything. And then also things like health and wellness. If you're not healthy, you're not going to be here very long. And if your goal is to impact and shine a light in the world, you have to show up well for yourself. And that means putting the right things in your body, consuming the right things in your mind, whatever faith you believe in, having something bigger than yourself to strive for and be able to give back. And it sounds like that a lot of those people that you're working with have those tools in their tool belt. And so, if I'm an executive or I'm a business owner or someone, an athlete that kind of needs a little bit of help and doesn't really know, just maybe I'm trying to fix something in my game or my business. At what point should I reach out to someone like you and your company and kind of what can I expect in return?
Well, I would say at any point, right? I mean, I'm not sure there's ever a point where we don't need work on the mental game or we don't need work on our habits or our focus. And so much of what we do is around mental performance. So it's how the mind connects to the body. We believe that physiology affects psychology and all great things start in the mind. So I would say, we're equipped to help people in different stages of sport or business. But the reality is that the inner game is where we create real success. And the inner game is your vision, your values, your conviction. And we spend so much time in personal growth and development on the outer game. And the outer game is concepts, ideas, strategies, and systems. So we live in this world that wants to sell us that concepts, strategies, and systems will take us to where we want to go. And we have all these people that are messed up mentally, right? And they're telling themselves the wrong story. They're feeding themselves the wrong thoughts. They're believing lies, right? About who they are and how they were designed and what they can accomplish. And if we don't fix that, then I could give you all the best language, and I can give you, all the best strategies or concepts, but it's only going to take you so far. So I think we need more people, Jesse, leaning into the mental side of performance.
Yep.
And the reason we don't go there, by the way, is because it's not tangible, right? It's like, well, it's way easier to just get this new script. I get this new language, or, and it's like, it's almost comical, right? Like you get a young sales guy and he's like, oh, I get this new language. I went to the seminar, I heard this guy, and I'm like, I'm going to use it. And I'm like, dude, that language doesn't mean shit.
Right.
If you have zero, like your self-confidence is at zero, and you don't have a vision, you lack clarity. Like, I promise you, this language won't do much for you until we work on this other stuff. And so, I'm just a big believer, man, that wherever you are, you need help.
Yeah.
Because you're human. And we got a lot of junk that rolls around in our brain each and every day. And I need to, right? Like it's a subject matter of continuous improvement. So anyway, great question.
Goes back to that average of that 60 to 90,000 thoughts we have as humans per day, and guarding your mind, protecting your mind, and rewiring your mind, and being able to kind of show up better for yourself, man. But one last thing, I know we're getting close on time for both of us. When you look at Montgomery companies, when all said and done, 10, 15, 20, 50 years, whatever it is, what are you hoping to have accomplished in the mark that's being left on the world?
I hope for me that I could walk away, Jesse, and say I'm respected the most by people who know me the best. If I gain the whole world but lose my soul, then whatever I did on this earth wasn't worth it. So for me, that's my maker. That's Jesus for me, right? I'm a person of faith, and so it's my family. It's my wife and my 3 children. It's my closest friends. If I serve those people well, then it's a life well lived. If I forsake those people and I gain the attention of a really large audience and I reach a lot of people, but I lose my family or my closest friends in the process, then I'm not sure I could really count that a win. So for me, it's about being respected the most by people who know me the best. If we do that, I'm just confident we'll move the mission forward. We'll be a light to other people. And, this isn't my home. I'm going to be here, and then I'll be gone. And, I guess I want to spend life living and give away what I've been entrusted with, and remember that life is short, so I'm going to pour it all out, man. And I got to remember to do that every day. So
live life burning bright like a candle from start to finish, and leave the gas tank empty, but full of heart and full of spirit, brother. I love it. I want to be the first one from the audience, the listeners, the viewers, to say thank you for who you are. Number one, Jordan, thank you for what you're doing in the world. We're excited to see what's next. He's the amazing, the mighty, the powerful Jordan Montgomery. I'm Jesse T. Be sure to catch us on next week's episode of the Jesse T Show.